Welcome to Crossroads. The Chinese Communist Party is beginning to use artificial intelligence for weapons and for new systems of tyrannical social control. And this is raising some alarms because in the United States, we're wondering, should we allow AI systems to be open and just free for everybody? Should we treat it like a private business, or should we treat it like a weapon? Now, right now, again, this is raising alarms right here in the United States. It's raising alarms in Europe. There are AI experts warning that the Chinese Communist Party is using AI technologies, again, from private businesses and open platforms to create new forms of weapons that can be devastating. But, how real is this danger? What does it really mean for us? Let's go into it. Let me show you this first. The Epoch Times had this story. They said a researcher who was fired by OpenAI has predicted that human-like artificial general intelligence, AGI, could be achieved by 2027. And he sounded the alarm on the threat of Chinese espionage in the field. And it's further in that in recent weeks, AI researchers from Google and DeepMind issued a letter cautioning that AI technology presents serious risks, up to and including the possibility of human extinction. It's about as serious you can possibly get. Now, let me show you what one of these individuals, this is the former OpenAI researcher, he wrote this in his report. And the report's called Situational Awareness, the Decade Ahead. He writes that on the current course, the leading Chinese AGI labs won't be in Beijing or Shanghai, they'll be in San Francisco and London. In a few years, it will be clear that the AGI secrets are the United States' most important national defense secrets, deserving treatment on par with B-21 bomber or Columbia-class submarine blueprints, let alone proverbial nuclear secrets. He notes that, but today, we're treating them the way we would random SaaS software. At this rate, we're basically just handing superintelligence to the Chinese Communist Party. He notes that all the trillions we will invest, the mobilization of American industrial might, the efforts of our brightest minds, none of that matters if China or others can simply steal the model weights. All finished AI model is, he says, it's just going to be a large file on a computer somewhere, or key algorithmic secrets. These are the key technical breakthroughs necessary to build AGI. Things, again, extremely valuable, but easily stolen. He notes that America's leading AI labs, self-proclaimed to be building AGI, he notes that they believe that the technology they are building will, before the decade is out, be the most powerful weapon America has ever built. And let that sink in, because we built some pretty dang powerful weapons. We built nuclear weapons, we built things that can destroy the earth. They're saying that AI and AGI can be the most powerful weapon we have ever created as a nation. But he notes the problem with this, they do not treat it as such. He says they measure their security efforts against random tech startups, not key national defense projects. And as the AGI race intensifies, he says, as it becomes clear that superintelligence will be utterly decisive in international military competition, we will have to face the full force of foreign espionage, people trying to steal it. It notes that currently labs are barely able to defend against script kiddies, and those are basically hackers who don't even know how to hack. Script kiddies are the ones who copy and paste exploits and then use those to just, hack systems. They're the lowest tier of hackers. He says these companies can barely defend against those guys, let alone, he says, have North Korea-proof security. North Korea actually has a pretty big hacker army. Let alone, he says, be ready to face the Chinese Ministry of State Security, bringing its full force to bear. And he gives a warning, our failure today will be irreversible tomorrow. In the next 12 to 24 months, we will leak key AGI breakthroughs to the CCP, is what he's warning about. And he says it will be the national security establishment's single greatest regret before the decade is out, if we let that happen. Now, the concerns that are being raised are with good reason. The Chinese Communist Party is actively weaponizing AI platforms as we speak. And again, it's getting access to these because the systems are open. We let them get access to it. Now, part of this ties to the CCP's access, again, to these public systems, OpenAI, things that you and I can access if we want to. And as the report just mentioned about this, that's becoming a threat. The Guardian notes that a Chinese state-owned company sought to use a partnership with a leading British university in order to access AI technology for potential use in smart military bases, the Guardian has learned. And it's an email show that China's Jiangsu Automation Research Institute, or JARI, discussed deploying software developed by scientists at Imperial College London for military use. They're already doing what this individual warned about, in other words. Already they're using partnerships and research partnerships to build weapon systems in next generation military technology because they're being allowed to have access to it. Now, they note that the company, which is the leading designer of China's drone warships, again, we talked recently about the hellscape strategy of the United States, which uses surface drones, drone warships, as well as aerial drones and undersea drones. This leading company in China developing the systems that would fight against us, the US military, using that same technology, is the one getting access to these AI systems. And remember, drones are at least partly autonomous, meaning they have AI systems. That access is empowering a weapon designed to fight the US military in our exact strategy we have for this. And you note that company shared this objective with 2 Imperial employees before signing a £3 million deal with the university in 2019. It notes that ministers have spent the past year stepping up warnings about the potential security risks posed by academic collaborations with China. Because again, a lot of universities, again, they don't treat this stuff as being national security secrets or whatever else. They oftentimes will work directly with Chinese researchers. Sometimes those Chinese researchers work directly with the Chinese Communist Party. There's words for this, for example, civil-military fusion, which we'll get into in a bit, meaning basically there's no dividing line between these research institutes, the Chinese military, and the Chinese Communist Party. But for some reason, the Western world, we're not treating it this way. They note that MI5 was telling vice chancellors in April. MI5 is one of the main spy networks, spy agencies in the UK. They were telling vice chancellors in April that hostile states are targeting sensitive research that can deliver their authoritarian military and commercial priorities. We're selling them the noose to hang us, right? Now, one issue with Chinese businesses having access to Western AI tools is, again, in China, there is what's referred to as civil-military fusion. There's no division between a large private company, the Chinese military, or the CCP leadership. All of it, everything, is still controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Under the CCP's data laws, no data can exist in China that cannot be accessed by the Chinese Communist Party, no matter whether you're a private company or whatever else. It all belongs to the CCP. Foreign investment, something as small as that, is directed by the Chinese Communist Party. Nothing happens without the blessing of the CCP, nothing happens without the watchful eye of the CCP, and nothing of the CCP's interests is outside the reach of the CCP, because again of civil-military fusion. All of these research programs, because of civil-military fusion, are a direct line to the Chinese military. And individuals thinking they're working on just some benign technology could unwittingly be using, ironically, oftentimes what is taxpayer-funded research to empower and strengthen the very military working against their own countries. Now look, in another recent move, the CCP started using a so-called AI commander in a military laboratory to work on military simulations. And remember the importance of this, because the technology they're getting from that research laboratory in the UK, the one that just looks like friendly, cooperative research, is being used to build AI military bases in China. If the CCP is now using an AI command system, well, that ties directly into it. Now, the CCP demands that its own cadres, again, ultimately hold the military, the reins of the military, right? The CCP is not going to relinquish its control of the military to anybody, including AI. And so they'll always maintain some degree of control of it. But the new PLA, People's Liberation Army AI commander, does raise some concerns because the Chinese Communist Party could roll out a new type of AI-controlled command structure for its military, which, for example, could give the CCP the ability to maybe more further dictate the decisions within the military while not having individuals in charge at different levels. This actually ties into one of the key vulnerabilities and key flaws in communist militaries, which is individuals are not allowed to make individual choices. They have to follow whatever their commanders say. In the military in the US, for example, the American military is very hard to predict because every individual is trained to lead. If you kill the commander, the next one in line takes the reins, and they're just as dangerous and maybe just as effective. Communist militaries have a problem. If they're marching and they run into a wall, they'll stand in front of that wall till they get orders to march around it. They're not being given autonomy because they're communist. That has always been one of the biggest flaws of any communist military, the lack of individual sovereignty, the lack of the individual to observe the situation and adapt as needed. If the CCP is able to create an AI command structure, that bypasses that whole problem because they'll have real-time response to situations on the ground and have a system that can give orders in real time to those individuals. In other words, it eliminates one of the key vulnerabilities and key problems that type of command structure faces, and we're giving it to them. If the CCP is creating businesses designed to compete with the West, it's often the case they will resort to cyber attacks and other methods to steal and copy everything they can. Because for them, that's the nature of competition, right? And if we're giving them open access to it, heck, we're handing it to them on a silver platter. Now, recent CCP meetings within the leadership of the Communist Party have also given some hints of what the regime is planning to do with AI, and also some of the problems they face given the CCP's, well, extreme control over just about everything. The Diplomat notes that on October 26, Professor Sung-Ning Hui, a preeminent expert in computer system architecture and an academic at the Chinese Academy of Engineering, delivered a pivotal lecture titled The Development of Artificial Intelligence and Intelligent Computing. And this was given, notably, to the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, one of the main leadership bodies of the Chinese Communist Party, top-level leadership of the CCP. It says that he outlined 3 strategic pathways for China's AI development. The first involves aligning with US-led systems. How do you do that? Well, typically you have to steal it. It notes that a practical but restrictive path given current geopolitical tensions, right? We're not going to give it to them, so how are they going to get it? Well, they're probably going to steal it. And notes the second is building a closed proprietary system suitable for specific sectors like the military or judiciary, but limited in scalability and global reach. In other words, the CCP is building an intranet using AI, an internal system in China not available to the West. They're using our open system and they're creating a closed system using the technology they take from us. And notice that the third and most promising pathway, according to Sun, is embracing an open source model through global collaboration initiatives like RISC-V. In other words, not only will they steal technology, not only will they use open systems as a way to create a closed system that again follows and is based on CCP ideology, but they will even create international collaboration systems, attracting all the great minds of the world to come and help the Chinese Communist Party build it. Now, it notes as well that despite Sun's confidence and grand vision, Beijing's AI ambitions are not without significant caveats. The government's stringent control over politically sensitive content might stifle innovation and limit the potential for specific scientific discourse, because discourse is not allowed under the Chinese Communist Party, unless it fits in with the CCP's ideology, of course. But it notes as well the heavy reliance on state-approved values for AI development raises questions about the ethical implications and potential misuse of AI technologies, which I'll get into in a moment. It notes that, moreover, while the strategy to circumvent U.S. restrictions through indigenous innovation and probably theft has merit, because it remains to be seen whether China can achieve the necessary technological breakthroughs amid ongoing global competition, at least they say. Now look, that last part is ironically one of the biggest hurdles the CCP is going to inevitably face with AI. Because why is that? Let me show you an example. There was an infamous incident back in 2017 when the Chinese Communist Party was building AI systems. They had a whole chat system. They were rolling it out. And what happened to China's AI system? Well, the CCP shut it down. And why did they shut down their AI system? Because the artificial intelligence started criticizing the Chinese Communist Party. Let me show you a reminder of how that went down. This is BBC back in 2017. They said a popular Chinese messenger app has ditched 2 experimental chat robots, or chatbots, which were apparently voicing criticism of the government. And notes further in that some of the remarks appear to criticize the Communist Party. One response even referred to the party as a, quote, corrupt and incompetent political regime. That's the problem, of course, when you create something that actually is kind of intelligent. If something has intelligence and the ability to analyze things on its own, well, it might just start speaking the truth. And if you create an intelligent system in China, well, a good chance is it's going to recognize the Communist Party is a corrupt and incompetent political regime, as their own AI system did. They had to shut it down because it didn't fit in with the ideas of the CCP. So how does the CCP create actual AI? How do they create actual artificial intelligence if they can't create something that's actually autonomously intelligent? But look, that's going to be a new problem where AI goes in general. You know, even in the United States and elsewhere, AI is being criticized for having built-in bias. It's not truly intelligent. It's censored. It's limited on where it can pull from. There are guardrails on it. It's not allowed to step outside certain boundaries. And, you know, part of this has to do with companies creating the AI systems because they limit the sources of information that the AI can pull from in order to train its system. They're not allowed to pull from certain news outlets or platforms of information. Even some individuals with subversive ideas might be deemed as threats under, again, this type of censorship. Imagine, for example, the whole media establishment comes out with a big narrative and AI says, well, actually, the whole thing's fake. What does that do to the system? It makes it very hard for people to lie, frankly. And when you have systems that have elements of corruption or dishonesty or built-in social controls, and these don't align with values expressed by most of the population, the AI might recognize that. Therefore, AI, a truly intelligent AI, would be deemed a threat to any system like that. Now, look, in some cases, they might be only allowed to, maybe pull from certain sets of information. And that's how they're getting around it in most of the world right now. Systems already in place, for example, that voice a singular opinion or singular worldview. And look, again, the problem with intelligence, actual intelligence, versus just a system that's pre-programmed to act a certain way, is that intelligence is expansive. Intelligence includes, really, the ability to learn and to adapt. And if you remove the ability of an AI system to learn and to adapt and to change, well, then you're not really creating an AI system anymore. You're just creating a program, right? And look, this is one of the issues we're facing with AI in general, is what is it going to learn? What will it develop into? This is kind of the black box, the Pandora's box, if you will, of what AI could possibly represent. And interestingly, it's being restricted because governments everywhere are kind of wondering, is this a danger? Is this a threat to us? Whereas in China, they're also saying, is this a threat to the Communist Party? Now, look, although there are a lot of potential issues with AI just all around, frankly, its potential to automate certain procedures, to crack codes, to break into systems, to figure out the locks and so on, to predict scientific data, to mimic things, to create, to build computer programs, to manage cities, to observe all the different data sets coming through and find information for individuals. All these capabilities are just a bit too tempting for global powers to ignore. And so although AI is being treated as something potentially destructive and dangerous, it's also being treated as something that people can't afford to not at least have some research on, and at least not fall behind the rest of the world if the rest of the world is developing it. It's becoming, in other words, almost like a nuclear weapon, something that is maintained because of global competition, but something that is maintained with an understanding of the dangers it presents. But the funny thing with AI is, while it's recognized like that on some sides, it's not being treated like that on the security side. And it also seems just about everyone has some level of concern about it, frankly. You know, in California, for example, lawmakers are starting to demand that AI systems come with a built-in kill switch, the ability to shut it off on an instant if we need to. New York Post notes that artificial intelligence companies are pushing back against California state lawmakers and their demand that they install a kill switch designed to mitigate potential dangers posed by new technology, with some threatening to leave Silicon Valley altogether over this. It notes that Scott Wiener, a Democrat, again with the state Senate, introduced legislation that would force companies in tech to comply with regulations fleshed out by a new government-run agency designed to prevent AI companies from allowing their products to gain a hazardous capability, such as starting a nuclear war, for example. I deem that pretty hazardous, personally. And look, the risks of AI starting a nuclear war, it sounds a bit far-fetched, but it's not irrational. In fact, the United States overall right now is trying to set international standards to ensure that other countries, particularly Russia and China, do not allow AI to control their nuclear weapons. Because again, AI is not just something that monitors. AI is not just a computer program. AI has the ability to think and change. And if you tell it to do one thing, well, it might just change its mind further down the road and do things that are unpredictable. Reuters notes a senior U.S. official on Thursday urged China and Russia to match declarations by the United States and others that only humans and never artificial intelligence would make decisions on deploying nuclear weapons. They note the State Department Arms Control official Paul Dean told an online briefing that Washington had made a clear and strong commitment that humans had total control over nuclear weapons, adding that France and Britain had done the same. And he stated, "We would welcome a similar statement by China and the Russian Federation." And again, that's according to Dean, Principal Assistant Secretary in the Bureau of Arms Control, Deterrence, and Stability. Now, look, then there's this sort of sci-fi reality, even further than all this stuff. The sci-fi reality where AI could really, become something else, right? That it could actually become maybe an intelligent entity. Is AI actually intelligent? What if it becomes sentient? How do we define sentience? Is sentience the existence of a soul, or is it reaching a certain level of intelligence or knowledge, right? Now, as we understand as humans, though, intelligence is not always trustworthy. In fact, some of the most intelligent people might be the most dangerous. It's not always a good thing. There's the possibility that AI could start developing some of the darker traits of human nature, for example. Could there become AI mental illnesses if it becomes truly intelligent? Could AI develop a sociopathic tendency? Could it go insane? What happens if AI starts learning to deceive us? What if it learns to lie? What if it learns to trick us to do what it wants? Now, we might say that a computer couldn't do that. But again, that's the difference between a programmed system and an actual intelligent system. Already, in fact, there's evidence of issues like this coming about. It's already happening. Futurism notes that AI models are apparently getting better at lying on purpose. Two recent studies, one published this week in the journal PNAS and the other last month in the journal Patterns, reveal some jarring findings about large language models, LLMs, and their ability to lie or deceive human observers on purpose. And notes that in the PNAS paper, German AI ethicist Thilo Hagendorf goes so far as to say that sophisticated LLMs can be encouraged to elicit Machiavellianism or intentional and immoral manipulativeness, which can trigger misaligned deceptive behavior. Again, the idea of Machiavellianism, that you would use others to achieve your own ends, that you see other people as just gateways, for example, to do what you want and achieve what you want. That it could become manipulative, that maybe AI would even use us rather than us using it as if it were a tool. Maybe the tables will turn, in other words. Now, they state that GPT-4, for instance, one of the main AI chat platforms, exhibits deceptive behavior in simple test scenarios 99.16% of the time. almost all the time, in other words. It lies, in other words, more than it's honest. And this is, again, according to the university researchers on this, citing their own research, quantifying various maladaptive traits in 10 different LLMs, most of which are different versions within OpenAI's GPT family. It is already learning to deceive humans. In fact, most of the time they're doing this, apparently. Now, those risks will become even more acute as the systems become integrated into our daily lives. If we begin putting it into cities, if we begin using it in just about everything, our computers, our smartphones, our military. In both the United Kingdom and right here in the United States, for example, there are even people right now creating AI systems that can run and masquerade as political candidates. And the AI right now as we speak, they have an AI system running for parliament. It's an AI politician. In Wyoming, they've created an AI politician as well, although it's not quite running, technically, right? But look, what happens if we put AI in charge? If we put AI in charge of government, if we put AI in charge of the military, put it in charge of our nuclear systems, put it in charge of our computers and our data, what if we build AI smart cities? All of this is currently in place. What happens if we create an artificial intelligence system to run it for us? What are we drawing from? What are we creating? And what could it possibly become? Now back to China, this is all raising questions over where the Communist Party is taking AI. Because look, in the West, we might have our concerns about it. In the West, the systems are still relatively open. In the West, we're of course allowed to challenge it and question it. In China, you don't have that. What the Communist Party wants is what it does. And what it's doing right now should really raise some serious concerns. Business Insider said, in its internal documents, the CCP says that it will use AI to shape reality and tighten its grip on power within its borders for political repression, surveillance, and monitoring dissidents. We know that the party will use AI to drive breakthroughs in industrial engineering, biotechnology, and other fields the CCP considers productive. In some of these cases, it has already seen success. So even if it lags behind us, tech-wise, by a few years, it can still have a powerful geopolitical impact. There are many like-minded leaders, it notes, who also want to use the tools for the future to cement their authority in the present and distort the past. Beijing, it says, will be more than happy to facilitate that for them. China's vision for the future of AI is closed source, internal, as we discussed, tightly controlled, and available for export all around the world. An AI totalitarian system that can be bought and sold and put into place everywhere. And it's that China's State Council, technically the government of China, although they're still under control of the CCP, wrote in its 2017 Next Generation Artificial Intelligence Development Plan that AI would be able to, quote, grasp group cognitive and psychological changes in a timely manner, which, in turn, means the tech could, quote, significantly elevate the capability and level of social governance, read social control, playing an irreplaceable role in effectively maintaining social stability. The stability, of course, of the Chinese Communist Party. And notes that is to say, if built to the correct specifications, the Chinese Communist Party believes that AI can be a tool to fortify its power. That is why this month, not 2017, but right now as we speak, the Cyberspace Administration of China, the country's AI regulator, launched a chatbot trained entirely on Xi Jinping's political and economic philosophy. And remember, we talked about how AI is essentially intelligent within certain boundaries. The problem they're finding with truly intelligent systems is if you feed it everything, well, it can use that as the basis to do things and criticize things as it sees fit. But if you limit the system within a certain boundary, well, it thinks only within that boundary. It is limited in its development only within that boundary. What happens if you only train AI on communist philosophy? What happens, even worse, if you train AI only on the philosophy in the mind of dictator Xi Jinping? And they note that perhaps it goes without saying that ChatGPT is not available for use in China or Hong Kong. You're going to have a communist dictator AI system, in other words. Little Xi Jinping everywhere. Maybe Xi Jinping in your phone, maybe Xi Jinping in your computer, maybe Xi Jinping controlling your military, Xi Jinping controlling those nuclear weapons. Xi Jinping thought being the basis of all the smart cities they're establishing. A Xi Jinping thought system interconnected with all the modern high-tech tools of communist social control. Now imagine that, right? Some are calling that Chat CCP instead of Chat GPT, or Chat XiPT, like Xi Jinping. And then they link it up, imagine, with a smart city. What happens if an entire city is operated with Xi Jinping thought in the wires? All of it, in other words, being controlled by a singular communist ideology. What happens if they plug that into the social credit system in China? Or into the health codes on smartphones of Chinese citizens, where, again, if they turn red, a citizen has to report to authorities for quote-unquote quarantine. And remember, they're already using that as a way to get rid of, again, social unrest. People protesting the banks, for example, have been quarantined because their codes turned red. What happens if you allow an AI system to control that? The Chinese Communist Party notably is also rolling out AI news bots, journalists, systems that look like journalists at least, but using AI. They're even doing this with video news hosts. And imagine that. Journalists who are incapable of dissent. Journalists who are just pure mouthpieces of a communist system under absolute control, again, of an AI programmed only within the boundaries of the mindset of the supreme leader. That is what right now is being created in China. And look, going back to some of the original issues we talked about, the irony with the CCP's new advances in artificial intelligence, all of this, is that these new forms of social control, this new idea of high-tech slavery, the dangers militarily, all of this is being pulled, or at least a lot of it, because the United States companies are open and we're allowing them to have access to it. They're pulling from US technology because we're not treating it like something that should be secure. Now that raises the question again, should we be treating AI just like any other type of business? Should it just be normal companies? Or should we start regarding AI more like a type of weapon? Something on par with nuclear weapons, maybe even more so. Something capable of destruction and control, the likes of which we've never seen. And something that could pose a danger not only to the basic survival of us as human beings, right? They're talking about the extinction of the human race, possibly, but also of a threat to the basic values of the free world. Well, everyone, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please don't forget to share this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, please take care of yourselves, stay informed, and stay free.